Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Welcome to the webinar on Begin Your Cloud Adoption Journey in Azure with NTT DATA. I'm Ananya Sharma, your host for the day. In this webinar, you will discover how organization can ramp up their game with Azure Cloud Adoption to achieve agility and scalability, and how NTT Data can help you in shifting from a traditional upfront expenditure to a more flexible pay-as-you-go model. With that, let me introduce you to our subject matter expert for today. We have Mr. Jay Kabira, Solution Architect, Solution Consulting Group from NTT Data. Moving on, I would like to guide you a little bit about the tool so that you have an interactive experience during the webinar. Throughout the discussion, if you want to ask something or say something to the presenter, please click on the hand raise button and we will attend to you. You can also type down your question in the Q&A section above, and it will be taken up in the scheduled Q&A pit stop. Without any further ado, now I will hand over this to Jay. I think we are ready to start. Jay, over to you.
Thank you for attending this afternoon session, and for those others that in other locations, good evening or good morning. So with now, we are going to have some agenda for today for this session. So first, we can start with why is cloud adoption important, especially now. So why is cloud adoption important? So 2020 is such an unforgettable event for all of us, right? So beginning the year, as early as January, we have experienced this news from the Middle East, or what we call the Iran-US conflict, right? So right after that, on the same month, there's some news about the wildfires in Australia, and also locally in the Philippines, where I'm located. So there was this sudden eruption of one of the dormant volcano we have, which is Mount Taal. So as early as those days or those on that month, we have experienced these kinds of catastrophes or disasters. And not to mention the onset of the pandemic COVID-19 outbreak, which have the many nations on lockdown starting the fourth quarter or March or April. So with that, some of the disasters continue until we have some other natural calamities like typhoons, floods, all the way through December. So imagine that you can have these catastrophes in just 1 year, and imagine the impact it has on the infrastructure, on the companies, on the society as a whole. So with that, there's one pain point that every organization, big or small, has realized. So what is that? What is that pain point? The main thing that is happening that happened last year that caused many businesses to crumble for many losses that has happened until now, or the effect that we are still experiencing at this moment. So with that, going to the organization, so do you have any of these motivations that have been possible triggers for you to migrate or to move to the cloud? So from on-prem or from the physical data centers, now we see the need to have this migration to the virtual or to the cloud. So as you can see, there are some different reasons or possible reasons that you have think of or that you might have in mind for you to move to the cloud. So I just want to share some poll questions so that you can better participate on this one. So, but first, let me ask you, during the lockdown, can you tell me which of these have been your favorite pastimes or has been your practice? So I have here some possible choices or options that you can choose from so that we can have a better feel of our situation. So can you try to key in your answers on the poll?
We are getting the responses now, Jay. So I
Yes,
think
yes, I can see.
audience is
So actually, it is the same thing on my mind. So one of the top answers is home decoration plans. So and also the gaming gears were it left us really stuck to our homes. So it's still
right,
to have these kinds of pastimes or practice that has become our way of life until now.
right.
So right, okay.
This is
So
good to see that people are not only surfing and stucking themselves with a lot of web series and
yes,
all. They are
yes,
doing
yes,
something
yes.
good. So
Actually, I think regardless of the geographical location, especially here in our country, so people are into plants, gears, so something like that, or some
right.
quick fast food items or deliveries, something like that. So I think majority really likes food.
Right, right.
Yes, yes.
So we can end the poll now. I think we have got
Okay. I think
good.
majority has already cast their vote.
True,
So I
true.
the top answer for this is it has something to do with food deliveries. Significant number. Okay, we can I think we can add the poll now.
Done that, Jay.
Okay.
I'm just sharing the result.
Okay. So as you can see, majority really loves food
Yeah,
and followed by the home gadgets
right.
and gears and plants. So it's basically the same. People, regardless of culture, regardless of race. So it's really this pandemic has really brought us into one common practice.
Right. Now we can move ahead, Jay.
Okay, so going back to the possible triggers that we have for the migration. So I have here another poll right now that you can choose from so that we can have a better understanding of your environment. So maybe you can choose one again from these options. So what is the compelling event on a time frame driving your decision for you to move to the cloud? So maybe you have some of these reasons or compelling items right now that you need to address, that you need to plan ahead right on the start of the year. So can you cast your vote now?
I would encourage everyone to participate so that we can gauge what
Yes,
is your
so that we can better customize or so that we can tailor fit the presentation according to what's
true.
okay.
People have started participating. We have 30 seconds more to go.
Uh-huh. Well, this shift from the office to the home offices really has put some of these items on the forefront.
Right. Even security is also, major
Yes,
concerns we have. So,
yes. And the need for us to innovate so that
right,
we adapt to this changing or to the new normal.
right. We can end the poll now. I'm just
Okay.
sharing the result
Yes, I
across.
think most of the attendees have already cast their votes.
Right.
So these are the results. Can you see the results now?
Yes, that is shared. I think security,
So
threat, and application innovation is the
as you
pager.
can see, the top, I think the top two answers are security threats and application modernization or innovation. So it is really evident or clearly reflective of what we have of the environment or the situation that majority or most or all of us have been encountering this time. So while we are waiting for the effect of the vaccinations happening all over the world. Okay, so for now we end first this poll so that we can proceed. So as you can see, there's really a lot of migration triggers that really has to be considered by the stakeholders, all the way from the top up to even the end users. So it's really like a collective input from all the users or the whole organization. So things like this or the changes that must be done really must be consulted with each one of us or which each one of the line of businesses. So, according to this survey just last 3 years ago, or I think this was conducted 2018. So, this statistics has been reflective of the sentiments of the business leaders as well as some end users with regards to the digital transformation of the enterprise. As you can see, these figures really say something about the need or the pressing or the impending change that we must face, especially now that we are really in this situation. So the need to be digital is something like that must be really adopted on our organization wide. So it's really not just limited to the organization also, but as well to the society in general. So with that, you can see that there's one big thing. So that must be considered or to share as a pain reliever so that we can address this one. So for this one, you can see that it's really like a puzzle for us. Like just last year, this happened. This has caused us to get to be surprised or be caught in surprise because of the changes that has happened so fast. Really, it's like everything was in chaos last year, right? So I think even until now, it is only now that organizations have been considering to plan to take a look into the probable or to the impending future that we have. So it's really like a puzzle that must be organized and must be solved. So with this one also, something has really been really has given us some kind uh, of a realization. So something like changes the mindset. So it is the digital transformation is not like just a technological change or transformation. It is something that must start from ourselves, from the things or from how we look at things, from how we want to envision our society, our organization. So, and it requires some radical thinking. So sometimes I think most of the time actually, we really need to get out of our comfort zone so that we can be able to embrace the change. Imagine those ideas that has really popped up during the pandemic, right? From the time we have to move to our homes to adapt to this new work environment up to the moment that we have to order food or order some beers for us to enjoy at home. So it's really something that leaders need to adjust, to adapt, to lead the organization as to how this risk and learning should be quickly done. So, and then I want to tell you something about me. So I have been in the IT industry for about, I think, more than 50 years actually. So I have been primarily with Microsoft Technologies, and basically I'm a solutions architect or been involved with the pre-sales team from the start, from the majority of my career. And then I am a proficient in cloud platform Azure. So one of my favorite in emerging technologies is blockchain. So I really like blockchain a lot. So I started that sometime, I think August 2014. And then I had some exposure as well to cybersecurity. So I also have some exposure to small and medium enterprises. So apart from the IT exposure that I have. So moving ahead, So we now discuss the cloud adoption framework of Microsoft. So I think it is important for us to know this framework because it can really guide us, it can really guide organizations in every undertaking or in every plan or the desire to move to the cloud. So I just want to tell you to remember these keywords. So this basically means aid if you're going to notice it. So first, we need to align some goals, especially now that really seems everything seems to be in disoriented or a lot of people need some guidance. So having a goal in mind, be it in the corporate or in the personal space, can really help a lot. So it's also important for us to incorporate balance because as you can see, we really have to balance the things that has happened at the office, and for us to adjust that, and for us to incorporate that, or even something like to adapt that to our home environment. So as well as with these needs or with these realizations in mind, we have the need to deliver modernization because we realize that we really can't stay on this situation forever, right? So that we have to plan ahead so that we should learn from the mistakes of last year or from the previous years so that we can be able to fully utilize or enhance the quality of life of every person. And with that, we really have to have this end goal of to enable digital transformation. So with the alignment of business and goals and people and technology, it's really like a cohesive strategy for us to make sure that all these three components work hand in hand. As we have said earlier, it is not just an ordinary digital transformation because it really requires some kind of synergy or synchronization between business, the people, and the technology that they use. So when we incorporate balance, on the other hand, so business goals must be something like with actionable insights, or it should be doable, so that whatever we plan, whatever we aspire to have in our new environment, in our new organization, it can be efficient and comprehensive and reasonable enough or feasible enough to have some kind of guidance during this transformation. And when we deliver these kinds of innovation, when we have these new inventions, we should also have in mind, we should also bear in mind that fast results should be guaranteed with emphasis on control and stability. So an innovation that is lacking on control and stability is really something can to be considered dangerous or something that can really put some significant loss on our business. And finally, we really need to enable digital transformation to make these keywords or which can relate to being guide or helping so that we can change we can change this innovation properly. So as you can see, we really need to have some kind of a strategy centered around or being built on the center of other areas or other actions that we need to consider. As you can see in this diagram, so we have to really define a strategy that will help us deliver our goals so that in support of that, when we adopt, when we become ready, and when we plan, we can be sure that it's really built around this core strategy that we have been that we have been planning in mind. And around that, of course, we need some kind of governance, some kind of compliance, so that we can ensure that these steps or processes or strategies are executed properly and the way that we manage and optimize the operations. So as you can see, a cloud adoption framework is something like an iterative process, meaning it really has to be agile. It really has to be something that can really be flexible to follow us, to guide us, whatever changes that we need to do for in event that we have for example encountered some changes or some scenarios where there are what ifs and then possible losses that can occur. So as you can see, it should evolve into something like a matured system as time goes by, so that we can be flexible enough to have these changes implemented with little loss. So on the next part is I want you to give you a highlight or a high level understanding of the cloud adoption framework and the way entity data does it. So as you can see on the big picture, so you have the vendor, so like Microsoft, and then the customer like you. So that in between, entity data plays an important role so that this cloud adoption framework can be executed. So from the side of the customer, they have these questions, you have these questions. How do you ensure that you deploy Azure in line with the best practices so that you can have minimal losses, so that you can have calculated risks, so that you can mitigate those unforeseen circumstances? And then another question that comes into your mind is that how do you get access to skills to the people that can help you accelerate those changes or the project that must be done without committing without having much mistake that can really have some impact on your bottom line. And from the end of the vendor like Microsoft, so they have these questions of how they have the need to explain what is their vision for the customer for their services to be effective. And also they have this their requirement to show to the customers or to everyone that the approach worked well so that the customer can have peace of mind as they go along this journey. And then and of course how to better communicate other technologies given by the customer, given by Microsoft to address those customers' needs rather. So on the middle of that, we have entity data, a systems integrator company that can help guide the customer and bridge the information that vendors like Microsoft would want to communicate with the end users. So by following the cloud adoption framework, entity data can combine this framework with some built-in in-house framework or methodologies that has been proven and tested over the past implementations over the years. So as you can see, entity data is a global systems innovator or global system provider. So one of the entity data's migration framework with Azure has some phases like this. First, we start with the assessment. So this is one of the discovery phases or one of the stages or components of the first steps that we usually conduct to know the requirements of the customer and to know their visions and to know their goals later on. So we have some automated assessment. We also have some manual assessment if, depending on the situation. So we try to have this migration thing make easier for the customer to handle. So we've also provide some support to the impact of this migration, as well as some studies and assessment and presentation to the customer of some financial reports like total cost of ownership. And after that assessment, we come up with a design. Those are the information or the scoping information that we have gathered during the time that we have interacted with the customer together with the guidance of Microsoft. in some of the engagement or in some scenarios. So with that design process, we try to come up with a target state design of the to be architecture or the things that has been put into consideration with regards to the vision of the customer to migrate to the cloud. So we have come up with logical architectures as well as some strategies in case some actions or some tasks did not fully execute well. So as you can see, we have some kind of backup plan on this phase, on this design phase that we incorporate to our actions, to our services, so that the customer can really have a better understanding of the technology, as well as to give them significant peace of mind. And on the middle of that, we proceed with the migration, the testing, and then the validation. And of course, that goes hand in hand with the optimization later on. So you can see we have prepared some checklists as well as some performance optimization reports and assessments as well. So with that, you can see that the actual migration is really not migration per se. It is composed of different components, subcomponents, so that we can ensure that whatever workload, whatever action that we have tried to bring to the cloud or to migrate to the cloud can really give us some sort of guarantee by conducting some pilot implementation, some pilot testings. And of course, with the checkpoints being conducted with the customers, we try to validate that with the end users. If what we have done is in compliance or is in accordance to the overall business plan or the goal of the customer. And when we have finally done the migration, it's the time for us to have some sort of management for the system on the cloud, on the migrated system. So we have some sort of switch over procedures or some tasks that we need to ensure together with some quality assurance checks, as well as some monitoring and possibly some managed services if the customer requirements call for it. And finally, it is not enough sometimes that we have migrated the system. So it is also imperative, or it is, I think it is every idea or vision of the company to innovate so that this organization or the business can have a better edge over the competition, right? So with that, we can come up with modernization reports through the Power BI analytics system, and also some big data information or systems or platforms that we can come up with. And not to mention the road mapping or the planning document that we can envision for the customer, which I can show you on the later part of this presentation, an example. I also want to, for the meantime, before we go to this next stage, let me conduct another poll to you. So we just really want to know a better understanding of your system right now. And if you may allow it, please have us launch this poll. So you may start to begin voting now.
Hello, everyone. Please vote so that we can make it more engaging. Yes, people have started voting. I would encourage everyone to please vote for this. Please put your opinion across. It will help the speaker to understand your environment and your choices well to portray further.
Your answers can really give us a better understanding of your environment so that we can properly suggest some even high level uh, insights to you on this session.
Right. But the vote is going, towards a mixed environment wherein they have physical and virtual machines both. So there, I'm thinking that yeah, they have the higher votes there.
Right? I can see that a significant majority is really has some mixed environment.
Right, right. I'm just ending the polling now.
Okay.
Just
So,
sharing the result. Yeah.
so significantly, you have some mixed environment with a combination of physical and virtual machines. So typical of every organizations out there. Okay, thank you for your participation on this poll. Let me proceed now. So to better understand the gap stages, it is imperative or it is a must for us to have even a high level understanding. So as you can see, it is composed of several stages. So much like similar to the usual things or procedures or steps that we have in mind or that we conduct whenever we perform a certain project, right? So first, we really have to define a strategy on the beginning. And then right after that, we need to plan on that strategy so that we can have some sort of validation, some sort of checks if ever what we have envisioned for our organization is really doable. And as after that, we really have to make sure that we are ready to handle that or to meet that goal in mind. And of course, with the actual action, we must adapt to that. It's either we migrate or we innovate. And alongside with that, when we have done these steps, when we have finally migrated or have our journey to the cloud, it is also equally important for us to have some sort of governance and management practices so that we can be able to answer or to adapt to changing needs of the customer or to the end users. So let me start first. Can you clearly see the top part? So define strategy. So we start with define strategy. As you can see, in every strategy, we really have to start with some motivations, right? So what are the motivations? So one of them are the migration triggers that I have presented earlier. So what are the different possible causes or the motivations for a possible cloud migration? So as you can see, there are several factors or several scenarios that we can consider or that we usually encounter, starting with people related changes or the motivations, like for example, executive mandate, some mergers and acquisition, some capability of the person or handling that. So you can see that it really covers different scope, including some unforeseen or some or things not controlled by man, like for example some geo expansion or some market demands as dictated by the customers. So of course we really have to have these motivations in mind, and out of those motivations we come up with the business outcomes that we need to study, the effect on the revenue, on the cost profit, on the time to market our products and services, and also how much customers do we really want to reach out, or what are the target areas or the future expansion for our services or products. And of course, we really have to measure the performance or the time to response, including some several downtimes of our infrastructure, as well as the reliability of our operation on a day-to-day basis. So things like that will come up to help us enable how are we going to justify those outcomes. So it is imperative or it is a must for us to have some sort of business cases, right? So the cloud is not always cheaper. It really depends on your goal, on your end to be state, or on your aspirations as a company, or what are the possible future improvements that you need to undertake on your organization. You really have to justify also that with regards to the financial model. Would you be much more profitable or much more cost efficient in a CapEx model, wherein you really invest some infrastructure, or will it really be beneficial for you to have some sort of operational efficiency, wherein you don't have to maintain data centers or some other infrastructure that can really require several or a certain amount of maintenance over the course of the time. So you should really be mindful of the purchases or the inventories of your cloud items or your cloud resources. Is it justifiable that your generated cloud resources can uh, can produce this particular amount of profit or something like a good result that can really justify your investment, whether it's a capital expense or an operational expense, as well as some consideration on the other physical assets that you might have. Because as you can see, it's really a holistic thing for us to consider. So what are the effects on the different lines of businesses? So are they operating, or are they interconnected to one another? Are they interdependent, or are they working in silos? So with that, the final stage of the strategy is to have a first project so that you can have something in your mind that you can work on. So it's like envisioning what are the business criteria, what are the workloads to be supported by this business case, as well as some technical criteria. You should be able to consider the minimum dependencies and some kind of testing path for you to have some calculated risk in sync with your governance procedures. And aside from that, you should be able to have some sort of qualitative analysis, having the time to assess your current team capability. Are they really be, ready or capable of supporting those future infrastructure on the cloud? And aside from having the strategy, it is now time for you to have some sort of a planning. So you really have to assess or to identify your digital estate. So what is a digital estate? A digital estate is a combination of your resources, virtual machines, workloads, and all the compute resources and other infrastructure that you have come up, including applications and data. So you should have some sound inventory, a rationalized listing. So as you can see that you can have some sort of, you should have a list that is optimized, or something like when you list down your resources, you can be sure that the items or those components are properly sized, so that you won't have to worry about overspending. By the way, I think we have some questions. If it's okay with you, can I just have this part at the end of the session so that we can answer all of them at the same time? So, okay. Initial organization is next. So it is a must for us to have some sort of cloud strategy team. So as I have said earlier, it is just not a business or a single component, but a combination of several components like the process, the technology, and the person. So having a cloud strategy team will help you assess the business requirements faster and more efficiently, so that you can have some sort of good management and governance in place as well. For the cost management, it is a must for you to have a regular consultation with your lines of businesses, so that you can properly determine if the usage or utilization of those resources really has some reasonable or feasible end effect later on, as well as some alignment with your IT and the business. With that also, with regards to your team, you should always have in mind that these implementation teams or these cloud strategy teams should be properly skilled. Are they ready to help you migrate to the cloud? Even if you even if you are not keen on having an outside help from the providers, you should really have this organizational readiness in place so that you can assess individuals as well as have some check on the skills that they have as you progress, as you innovate, as you advance to the cloud. So another one is the initial organization alignment together with the different stakeholders, not just the technical department, but try to consider as well the sales department, the logistics, the finance, and other operations teams in your organization. And of course, with the cloud adoption plan, you can study different migration strategies. Would you be opting for something like just a lift and shift warehouse, or something like rebuilding or re-architecting the source code for you to come up with newer technologies or innovations for your end users or customers? As well as for the infrastructure, we have the plan for that. Like for example, a detailed listing of the specs of the virtual machines, of the servers, of the models of those of those components. How many are virtual machines? How many are physical servers? Something like that. And with application innovation in mind, what do you foresee your company doing? Would you be considering to serve additional markets, newer markets? In the case now, there are really several business models that are coming up that have been really that have been created with the onset of the pandemic, of the work from home lifestyle. And with the data-driven innovation, another set of data has been really being considered. Some of us will think that those information that are not really evident before, like for example, those unstructured data, how can you better maximize those data if you're going to consolidate them? How can you how can you create newer businesses or newer sources of revenue out of those data that you have not noticed before? So something like that. And then, of course, when you after doing the planning, you should be ready to have it. So readiness means that you prepared different kinds of other documents or some process or some environments for you to be ready in the journey. So with the Azure readiness guidance, so it is a must that you have this emphasis on the resource management, your subscriptions, the resource tree hierarchy. If you have different organizations across the different geographical locations, so the standards, it's a must that that you have properly labeled them, so that when it comes to billing or the cloud subscription later on, you will have an easy time managing them, as well as the resource tags that you can really incorporate in your organization. And of course, the landing stone of the infrastructure, of the identity and the cost. So you can see that you really have to consider the kind of network, what kind of connections will you be having on the cloud, the security, the touch points, the endpoints. So something like that, as well as the compute design. What are the processor types that you need to consider that can give you an optimized or a maximum benefit for your investment, for your subscription, as well as the data design. So Will you be giving much emphasis now on the unstructured, on the social media information that your company gets from these campaigns that you launch with your marketing campaigns? With the identity, with the access that you need to establish so that you can ensure the security or the compliance of your organization. Is it a role-based access? So who are the lines of businesses that must really consider that must be considered on this, and how to manage the least privilege? And of course, with regards to the cost, it is something that must not be ignored. So you really have to take a closer look at the cost and the billing. So analyze at each or at what particular instance of the day do you have this really crunch processes or really these transactions going on? Is it during the the morning or the end of the day or in the middle or even during weekends or something like that? You have to have the initiative to monitor budgets so that you can really allot or allocate. You can choose between pay-as-you-go schemes or manage instance or reserve instance later on, so that it will be really an optimized operation for you. That it is not just enough for you to right size those specs, but also spending wise budget for your expenses, as well as the management of the invoices and the payments that you need to settle at the end of each month or from time to time. And of course, having to consider those innovations, those are complex infrastructure later on. It is a must that you have this kind of blueprints or some kinds of templates or some kinds of proven working models that you can implement later on before you can try to have them integrated. So it's really something like having this big picture in mind, so that when you finally have the chance or the resources or the means or the team to enable these ambitions or aspirations of the company, you can have this assurance or better understanding that your actions will be highly successful. And with Migrate, it's really between two things. So organizations really have to we really have to choose between two things. So one of the popular one is having a migration or a lift and shift. So it's like transferring or moving your workloads as is from the physical and virtual machines to the cloud as is without having much changes. So that is an example of adoption. So with cloud adoption, you really have to consider, you really have to assess your workloads so that it will not warrant some significant investments in the creation of newer business logic. So it's something like just an outright or something like an easy migration without having too much risk or some dangers of moving to the cloud. So with that, you have to assess. So you can see this is similar to the ones that I have discussed earlier. So with regards to the business triggers or the motivations that you have. So one, as I said, one popular action of organizations towards their move to the cloud is a rehost, or popularly known as a lift and shift. So as you can see, this is basically having the resources really manageable for you to move to the cloud. So with that, by the time that you have migrated, organizations really have to optimize. You really have to right size. If, for example, the amount of workloads or the virtual or physical machines that you have migrated are really consuming that amount of power or energy or expenses. So with optimizing, you can have a time to face your business case. You can have a time to check your business case so that you can really discern if it's really logical or business wise for you to adopt an OPEX model rather than a CAPEX model. So you can see that optimizing does not end there. So when you manage it, you really have to make it secure so that your users will be much more productive and have peace of mind. Another type of adoption is the innovation. This is much more like an extra step for you. It is not just a simple lift and shift. Sometimes you really have to consider, you also have to do some refactoring wherein you have to analyze the codes of your application so that it can really be in compliance or in accordance to the business logic that you have in mind, or to the or to the greater efficiency of the resources. There are also some approach like the architecting, wherein you modify a certain amount of code so that, like, for example, if you are doing with a monolithic approach or a monolithic architecture, when you try to re-architect, you can convert that into a microservices type of a platform as a service of infrastructure later on. So you can also rebuild. So by that, you really have to consider the drivers to accelerate the innovation. And of course, as some organizations, they conduct some DevOps that is in line with the culture as well as development and the phases of this implementation from testing up to management. And finally, and then next to the last is the govern. So with that, you really have to have some sort of compliance. This is where you define the policy so that it can ensure the consistency of your adoption across all your efforts across the organization. So it is a must that you have this alignment to compliance requirements so that by the time that you need to study or to audit your systems, your business process, you really are in sync or in synchronicity with your end goal. So you can see there are some business processes as well as some risks and some baseline that you need to consider for this phase of the implementation of the framework. So you can see there are some evaluation to be done as well as some enforcement. So it is not enough that you come up with some baseline. You really have to couple it with some action with these enforcements or centralization that you need to consider with this stage of the framework. And then finally, when you try to manage and operate the migrated system, the new infrastructure in the cloud. So you can see here that with management comes side by side with the resiliency and monitoring and proactive monitoring. So with that, you can have these alerts that you can really monitor from time to time. You can enhance or you can generate your service level agreements so that you can have an audit of that if it is still in compliance or in sync with your overall strategy. So having this system migrated and having this system managed and operated really requires every organization to ensure that whenever there's some disasters or some failures down the line, we can have some sort of steady recovery plans in place. So we can have the time or the flexibility to evolve to a highly available platform, be it in a 24 by 7 operation or on a usual business day arrangements or something like that. So here are some tools that I can share with you with regards to to the cloud adoption framework implementation. Actually, you can try this. You can go this to this site. It is a public URL that you can check. Some of the familiar or popular tools in there are the Azure Well Architected Review. So it is a set of some like a some sort of a scoping questionnaire for you to better understand your infrastructure. So there's also the cloud journey tracker and then the smart tool where it can really help you gauge your maturity or your level in the cloud journey. So I didn't put it here at this point because it's really quite a long list of questionnaire that you can answer and then you can do on your own free time. So these are usually the tools and the assessments that we have available to the public that you can easily review or that you can easily access. So I can give you an example of cloud adoption, cloud journey experience in our experience. Uh, so first, we really start with the discovery, or this is the assessment. So we really have to better understand the digital estate of the organization, of the customer, so that we can know. It is like a starting point for us as a systems integrator to help or to handhold the customer in their journey to the cloud. So with that, I can give you a particular scenario. We on this one, we execute a particular tool. It is actually provided by Microsoft or uh, some of them are it's called Microsoft Application and Planning Toolkit, and one is the Azure Migrate. So these are the tools that are usually being used in stages or in this discovery phase. So the purpose of that tool is for the systems integrator to discover or to help the customer get a better understanding of the inventory of their system. So right after we have done that, we proceed to the planning. So we try to run some additional tools if needed. We have some meetings or some checkpoints with the customer with regards to their vision, with regards to their goals, with regards to their capability on the manpower assessment or skills that they have, so that we know as a systems integration company on how to better help them. And right after the planning, we come up with the migration strategy. So will it be a lift and shift? Will it require some additional source code analysis or some kind of activity that will lead to the platform as a service model? So something like that, depending on the requirement of the customer. And then right after that, when we are done with the migration as well as with the testing, there's a proper some kind of turnover at the end of that. So engagements like this can take about several weeks or Mondays. So depending on the workload, we usually have this pilot server migration wherein we just determine or identify a particular application together with the customer. So it's like a collective effort. It's like an engagement or a consultative effort together with the end user. And this is the one that I have mentioned to you about the roadmap example. As you can see on the bottom part, so it's like a funnel, right? So on the bottom part, we have those on-prem system. As you move up to this roadmap, to the journey, you can see that it sometimes require a no change in the source code. So basically, it's just a lift and shift kind of migration. So, but there are times that you really have to optimize those workloads, those virtual machines, so that they can better fit the end goal of the customer. Up to the time that the customer, together with us, NTT Data, has this understanding or this agreement to have it converted to a sure PaaS solution type of infrastructure. And with that, we perform some further optimizations and some integrations, probably depending on the requirement. So we try to expose the functionality of those PaaS solutions or those software as a service offering, so that we can better fit that to the other needs of the customer. So you can see that some of those can be converted to the SaaS solution, a certain percentage of that. Like for example, just a 15% of the workloads will be converted to the SaaS or to the other cloud-based architecture. And maybe a certain portion of that, later on will need to be retired or right size further or to eliminate. So something like that. You can see there are some milestones that we have some milestones that we really have to consider. So so you can see we have this some kind of migration from on-prem to the cloud, right? So so we have some key takeaways for this one. So in summary, it is a must for us to have this to read the cloud adoption framework documentation, so that you can find a partner to help you use it as a starting point. Another takeaway is to be unique to your motivation and goals. So don't just try to copy what others did just to join the bandwagon of journey to the cloud. And then try to invest in time and building those documents, the automation in the process. And also, it's a must for your team to be upskilled and stay in line with the top best practices. So I can share to you here some of the how entity data can help. These are some our popular offerings. So as you can see, it's in format or in, same format with the framework that I have mentioned. So these are the faces that you can see. So these are contact information, the persons that you need to reach out in the event that you will be interested to avail of these services. So we can start now with the Q&A portion. So let me,
Thank you,
yes,
Jay. Thank you,
okay.
Jay, for the wonderful session. And now we will start with our Q&A section. So the first question is, which is more cost effective, on-prem or cloud? This is asked by Carlo. So,
Actually, it is really dependent on your requirement, because some of the, like for example, in the financial and services, financial and insurance industries, some of them really prefer some kind of a mixture of a hybrid setup. Like for example, they have these particular servers or applications residing on-prem, and then some of the uh, less sensitive information or data be shared to the cloud on some kind of on a dedicated cloud, something like that. So it's really depend on the industry. But for some industries, like for example the services industry, some of them are really comfortable having a full cloud kind of environment.
got it, Jay. But does it actually make sense, if you have some on-prem and, you have some virtual on cloud also, if you have some server, it should be a combination always, or we should always move, towards the cloud itself, which has more secured and reliable solution.
Actually, the cloud adoption framework must be executed wholly. And then it really depends on the first part of the assessment, like for example, on the strategizing, on the envisioning, because it is only on that portion, like for example, like for us systems integrator, it is on that initial meeting that we really have to discover the customer's pain points or the end goal that they have. So it's like on that initial stages, we can recommend to them what kind of architecture or setup that they can go on, depending on their comfortability, depending on their skills or something like that. But it is really a hand-holding session between systems integrator, Microsoft, and the customer in deciding which particular model to adopt.
Sure. Moving ahead with the second question. Do I need to move my application if I am going ahead with server migration? So I think he's looking for some solution in
Um,
combination of
uh-huh.
having application on-prem.
So with this one, it really depends on the first few stages. Like for example, this offering, we have what we call the Azure Starter offer. So it's something like the customer tries to nominate a particular application. So that a particular application is something that they are comfortable to move to the cloud initially as a pilot implant. So with that, we try to consider some workloads that is codependent with that, so that risk can be mitigated. So it's really something that must be consulted with the customer, Microsoft, and the entity data. So that is one particular approach that we have. So it's really not. There are some factors that you need to consider for you to consider a particular application to be migrated to the cloud, because sometimes the application it really requires an overhaul or something like refactoring or something like it's not compatible to a lift and shift kind of approach, so something like that. So the initial phase, which is the discovery, can really help us a lot, because with that we can use a tool to help determine the viability of that approach together with the output of that. Because before we present the solution to the customer, we try to present the findings of that report, of that full assessment that we have tried to run on the environment, something like that.
Thank you, Jay. That was a wonderful answer. I would say that. Okay. So I think we are not left with any other question. If just we can wait for another 1 minute or so. If anybody is having any question, I would request every attendee to post in their questions so that can be taken up right now. If you have any question, please type in that in the Q&A section. Meanwhile, I will also suggest that if Jay, you can share some email ID across so that if they have any question, they can, send it directly to you and you can reply back. Or if we have certain, communication
I think we
email
have
ID.
another question.
Okay. Yeah. I think what additional benefits can we get from Microsoft Azure as a teacher using Microsoft?
What additional benefits can we get? So Microsoft, as you can see, is helping organizations to have the migration or the journey to the cloud much easier than it seems, right? So you can see that. Um, should I proceed, Ananya?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So if you're going to take a look at the holistic view of the Microsoft Azure platform, you can see that there are several services being enabled now on the cloud. So it is not just limited to the infrastructure migrated to the cloud. As you can see, there are some additional applications, like for example, the Power Platform applications, wherein there are some applications that will require you to have a low code or no code kind of learning for you to migrate your application. So it's really like a holistic view. Like for example, in the modern workplace, wherein there are some collaborative tools that Microsoft can make use, so that it can have you have the guidance to move to Azure. Like for example, some DevOps or some integration with other open source technologies, so something like that. So as you can see, Microsoft has evolved into into a company, not just really on the technology portion. So it's something like a holistic view of the business needs of or even as a society as a whole, wherein different technologies can interact with one another, be it Microsoft or non-Microsoft. So something like that. So it's really a bright future for us to have this to have Azure as one of the possible considerations that we can use in consideration of our movement to the cloud. Do we have any other questions, Ananya?
I think we are not left with any other question. And somebody has said thank you to you on the chat window also for your clear and specific answer. And we can, I think I would encourage everyone that if you have any other question, you can directly, send an email to Jay and he can revert back to you. Somebody is asking for a copy of the material. So I just wanted to reply you that we will be sharing the recording and a recording across to you. So you can check the recording and you can go ahead with that. Shall we share the presentation as well, Jay? Can we do that?
Come again, Ananya?
The presentation. Somebody is asking for this presentation basically.
I think yes, we can coordinate with Emmanuel.
Sure, sure.
Okay, thank you po.
Any other question? I think we have overshooted the time. So let's wrap up. Jay, thank you so much for this wonderful session. I would be looking forward from the audience for many more questions. You can type in down your question on the email ID that would be shared across. And we will also be sharing a survey form. And I would encourage everyone, please put in your suggestion and your feedbacks so that we can work accordingly.
Thank you, Ananya, for having me, and thank you, everyone, for attending this afternoon session, in spite of this nap time schedule. So thank you, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much. Bye.